By the middle of the 17th century, European nations had begun to establish more and more bases in India, but a number of competing Indian states still dominated the subcontinent. One of the only powerful Hindu states was the Vijayanagara Empire, but when this collapsed, new states like Venad, Keladi, Mysore, Madurai and Tanjore emerged. The centre of India was divided between the Muslim Deccan sultanates, Bijapur and Golcanda. These, however, were governed over by a mix of ethnicities: local Indians, Afghans, Persians and even Africans. And the Mughal Empire ruled in the north. It had emerged from Central Asia in the 1520s and in just over a century had expanded a great deal. For instance, in 1628 Emperor Shah Jahan annexed the Deccan Ahmadnagar Sultanate, and in 1657 his son Aurangzeb captured the important city of Bidar with the help of war elephants and rockets. However, the Muslim Mughal emperors and Deccan sultans ruled over a much larger Hindu population, which was broken down into various castes, clans and tribes, some of which, like the Jats and Gurjars, were pastoral people. The Rajputs held leadership positions within the Mughal Empire, and the Deccan sultans used the Maratha in their armies. The origin of many of these are disputed, and many had converted to Islam over the centuries. But Shah Jahan didn't follow previous liberal policies towards religion. For instance, at the Battle of Amritsar, he clashed with the Sikhs, who had recently emerged in North India just a century earlier. And when Aurangzeb became emperor in 1658, he continued to persecute the Sikhs and would even execute a guru for refusing to convert. He also destroyed many Hindu temples and imposed a tax on non-Muslims, causing a great deal of unrest. But the Maratha gained power in the Bijapur Sultanate. Decades earlier, the Maratha Bhusale clan had been rewarded with key towns like Pune for their services in the Deccan armies. And in the early 17th century, their leader Sahaji was also granted power in Bangalore. But in the 1640s, the Bijapur Sultanate arrested his teenage son Shivaji for taking over Torna Fort by bribing the governor. He was released a few years later, but continued raiding and won a number of battles against the Bijapur Sultanate throughout 1659 and 1660, and famously killed General Afzal Khan. But the Bijapur Sultan quickly called on Aurangzeb to help crush the Maratha, and the Mughals quickly occupied Pune. However, Shivaji launched a guerrilla war, and in 1666 attacked the Mughal commander in Pune by allegedly sneaking into the city during a wedding. Many Hindus then joined the Maratha as they moved north to sack Surat, but a much larger Mughal army was sent to besiege Fort Puranda and ravage Maratha territory. So Shivaji surrendered in 1665, agreeing to hand over forts and join Mughal administration. Once in Agra, however, he was arrested, but managed to escape and was brought back under Mughal influence. However, by the 1670s, most states in India were in turmoil. The Sikhs, Pashtuns and Hindu Jats were all rebelling against Aurangzeb. In Bijapur, the locals, Afghans, Persians, Ethiopians and others all struggled for power, and in the south, Madurai invaded Tanjore. The Bijapur Sultanate agreed to help the deposed king of Tanjore reclaim the throne and sent an army under the Maratha clansman Venkoji, the half-brother of Shivaji. But Venkoji claimed the kingdom for himself in 1674. Meanwhile, Shivaji took advantage of all this instability and launched another campaign. In just under a year, with an ever-growing army, he was able to seize key forts along the eastern coast, and crowned himself king of the new Maratha state. He did temporarily accept Mughal suzerainty, but the Mughals decided to attack the Bijapur Sultanate after allying with local factions. But in 1676, the Mughal viceroy in the Deccan switched allegiances. He formed an alliance with the Afghan faction, and together they tried to invade Golcanda in 1677. This, however, failed, and it convinced Golcanda to form an alliance with Shivaji. And with their help, Shivaji launched an expedition into the south of the weakened Bijapur Sultanate and seized key towns like Jinji in 1677. But he refused to share the spoils with Golcanda, and he even clashed with his half-brother Venkoji. Meanwhile, Shivaji had imprisoned his eldest son Sambhaji for his unruly behaviour, and his second son Rajaram was set to inherit the throne. Sambhaji, however, escaped and temporarily joined the Mughals, but soon returned to imprisonment. However, Shivaji died just a couple of years later in 1680, and because Rajaram was just a boy, Sambhaji escaped again and seized the throne. But he soon had to deal with a large Mughal invasion of southern India.